Actually got a photo from it. One of you guys shared it with me. It's in New York. The rat here, and it says, "Tell Kathy Engelbert and Adam Silver to get the CBA done. Without the players, there is no WNBA. Pay equity is not optional. It is earned, it is deserved, it is overdue." I feel like the players have lost sense of reality a little.
That inflatable rat sitting outside the NBA store in New York City isn't just some random protest prop. It's a calculated statement. A deliberate attempt by the WNBA Players Association to seize control of the public narrative. The problem is, this move may be doing far more damage than good, and it couldn't have come at a worse possible time. Traditionally, that symbol is used in labor disputes involving severely underpaid workers. Construction crews denied wages, teachers fighting for basic resources, essential employees pushed to the margins. It carries a very specific message: exploitation. But when that same symbol is deployed while rejecting a proposed agreement that would elevate maximum player salaries beyond $1 million per year, the message becomes confused. And confusion is deadly in public perception. This isn't about arguing whether WNBA players deserve to be paid more. That debate has largely been settled in the court of public opinion. Most fans agree the players deserve growth alongside the league. The issue here is optics. When you position yourself as victims of injustice while simultaneously turning down the most lucrative offer in league history, the disconnect becomes impossible to ignore. Fans don't follow balance sheets. They don't parse revenue formulas. What they see is a protest symbol associated with poverty and exploitation being used by athletes who, for the first time ever, are staring at seven-figure earning potential. To the average supporter, that doesn't look like a fight for fairness. It looks like entitlement. And this matters because the WNBA is finally at a fragile point of momentum. Attendance surged, ratings spiked, new fans showed up, not lifelong supporters, not diehards, casual fans. Families, kids, people who came because the product felt exciting, hopeful, and forward-moving. Those are the fans you cannot afford to alienate. Public goodwill is not permanent. It's conditional. It's emotional. It depends on relatability. The moment fans stop seeing players as people fighting for progress and start seeing them as disconnected from reality, that goodwill evaporates fast. The inflatable rat doesn't communicate nuance. It doesn't explain revenue losses or long-term equity goals. It sends a blunt, aggressive message that says we are being wronged. And right now, a growing portion of the audience simply doesn't buy that framing. In trying to win the perception battle, the Players Association may be losing the only thing that truly sustains a league still finding its footing: the trust and empathy of its fans.
The real world deals with, those are your fans. Those are the people going to games. Those are the people who sometimes cannot afford tickets that are more than $20 or $30, but they save up for that to be able to take their family to go to these games, to sit in the nosebleed section, because that's what they can afford. That's real life. That's real life, okay? These people don't want to constantly hear about millionaires not making enough money, especially with this economy and like the state of the world.
This is where the situation moves from complicated to genuinely troubling. Because the target of that protest, symbolized by that inflatable rat, isn't just ownership in the abstract. It's Adam Silver. Pause on that for a moment. Adam Silver is the same commissioner whose league has subsidized the WNBA for nearly 3 decades. The same NBA that has absorbed hundreds of millions in losses to keep women's professional basketball alive through years when profitability wasn't even on the horizon. Adam Silver didn't treat the WNBA as an afterthought. He invested in it. He promoted it. He used his platform to legitimize it. He pushed sponsors, media partners, and franchises to believe in it long before it was fashionable to do so. He also championed women in leadership roles across the NBA ecosystem, advocated for equal resources, and consistently used his influence to elevate women's basketball. That's not rhetoric, that's documented history. So when his name becomes associated with a protest accusing management of exploitation, the strategy collapses under its own weight. This isn't punching up. It's burning a bridge, possibly the most important bridge the league has. Negotiations aren't just about numbers. They're about relationships. They're about leverage. And alienating the single most powerful advocate you've ever had is not leverage. It's self-sabotage. If you turn your biggest ally into an adversary, what exactly is the endgame? Who steps in to replace that support? Who fills that financial and institutional void? This isn't a moral critique. It's a strategic one. Because labor disputes are ultimately about power dynamics. And power doesn't respond well to public shaming when it has already been acting in good faith. By targeting Adam Silver, the Players Association risks reframing the entire dispute, not as players versus a system, but as ingratitude versus sustainability. And that is not a narrative they can afford to lose.
matter-of-fact way saying we're at the table, this is what we're asking for, and we're not budging there. Adding all of the extra language, and we've heard it from the players, a slap in the face, putting lipstick on a pig, the name calling and kind of just little clap back lines that they used constantly. And this is not this is not only in regards to the CBA, like the WNBA PA or whoever's writing these, and I don't know who's writing these, whoever's also writing these has done it a million times.
Let's talk honestly about the word that keeps getting thrown around in this negotiation, compromise. Because the way the Players Association is using it and the way it actually functions in practice are two very different things. In every statement, every interview, every press appearance, union leadership insists they're willing to compromise. They emphasize flexibility. They stress collaboration. But when you examine their stated positions, something doesn't line up. Their core demands, by their own admission, are non-negotiable. They won't budge. They won't adjust. They won't recalibrate. That isn't compromise. That's an ultimatum. True compromise requires movement on both sides. It means giving something up to reach common ground. Yet no one has publicly explained what the Players Association has conceded. Not once has a reporter pressed them with the most basic follow-up question. What did you sacrifice? What demand did you soften? What line did you cross to meet the league halfway? From the outside, the imbalance is striking. League ownership has already made dramatic concessions. Maximum salaries didn't inch upward, they exploded. What once sat around $250,000 ballooned to offers exceeding $1 million. That's not incremental progress. That's a seismic shift, a 400% increase in top-end compensation. And yet, that offer was dismissed as insulting. This is where frustration begins to set in, not just among fans, but among players themselves. Because not everyone in the union occupies the same economic reality. Leadership figures and star players have endorsement deals, alternative leagues, equity stakes, and financial cushions. Many others do not. Rookies trying to establish careers. Veterans nearing retirement. Players on minimum contracts. Their priorities aren't ideological. They're practical. They need certainty. They need guaranteed income. They need stability. But their voices are absent from the public conversation. Decisions are being framed as collective when the consequences are deeply individual. When compromise is demanded from only one side, negotiations don't stall, they fracture. And the longer this standoff continues, the more difficult it becomes to maintain unity, both within the union and with the fan base watching from the outside. Words matter, and when actions contradict rhetoric, credibility erodes fast.
Some of the people that I've been working with who work at the NBA have worked there for 25 years because they love it there. Like, the NBA does take care of their employees. There's a lot of things in the WNBA that can be better. And we've all said that. There's a lot of things that can be better. And I think there does need to be people in place at the WNBA so that those things do get better, so that they do have adequate training facilities for these players, so that they are marketing their star players in a proper way. All of this stuff does need to get done. But to call out Adam Silver and the NBA when they...
Timing is everything in negotiations, and right now, the timing couldn't be worse for the Players Association. Because while these talks drag on, the broader basketball ecosystem is quietly producing data. And that data is unforgiving. Unrivaled just completed its second weekend. Last season's opening weekend, driven heavily by Angel Reese, averaged over 313,000 viewers. This season, without her presence, viewership dropped below 200,000. That's a 36% decline. And those numbers matter more than any press release ever could. Because what they represent is leverage, or more accurately, the loss of it. Every WNBA owner is watching those ratings closely. Not out of spite, but out of necessity. Ratings reveal demand. Demand determines value. And value defines bargaining power. The uncomfortable truth is that women's basketball growth has been driven by a handful of transcendent stars. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. When they're absent, the audience shrinks dramatically. That doesn't diminish the talent in the league, but it does define the market reality. And markets don't negotiate based on ideals. They negotiate based on numbers. These declining viewership figures aren't just about one league. They're a warning sign. They show what happens when star power disappears. They show how fragile the current momentum really is. As negotiations stall, that fragility becomes dangerous because leverage isn't static. It evaporates. Every week without games, every empty arena date, every lost broadcast window chips away at bargaining power. This isn't theoretical anymore. It's happening in real time. The longer this drags on, the less favorable the conditions become, not just for owners, but for players themselves. Momentum is a finite resource. Once it's gone, rebuilding it takes far more than demands and statements. And right now, that momentum is slipping through everyone's fingers.
go by that. And Adam Silver came out months ago and he literally said, like, I don't think we should look at it in a revenue structure. I think we're just going to make sure that these players get a high paying salary. And I feel like the WNBA has tried to do that. But I guarantee you, like, yes, Unrivaled has helped in a sense at the negotiating table. There is a conflict of interest for sure. Unrivaled has helped at the negotiating table, though, to show, like, hey, we can pay these players this much. If we're able to pay them more, then you're going to have to pay us more. It has helped in that sense. However, it is starting to backfire in a sense that where the owners are watching.
Here's the uncomfortable reality that nobody involved in this dispute seems eager to acknowledge. The average American household earns roughly $60,000 a year. That's the backdrop against which this entire conversation is being watched and judged. These are the people filling the arenas. These are the parents buying tickets months in advance, scraping together $20 or $30 so their kids can sit in the upper sections and see their favorite players live. These are fans juggling rent, groceries, inflation, and job insecurity, and still choosing to spend their limited disposable income on women's basketball. Now imagine how it looks to them when day after day they're confronted with press releases, interviews, and protest actions from athletes who are already among the highest earners in women's professional sports, insisting that a historic pay increase still isn't enough. Whether that reaction is fair or not is almost irrelevant. Optics don't care about fairness. They care about perception. This isn't a moral argument about worth. It's a strategic one. Public support is not built solely on righteousness. It's built on relatability. And right now, the messaging coming from the Players Association feels detached from the economic reality most fans are living in. People understand fighting for better conditions. They understand pushing for long-term growth. What they struggle to accept is what appears to be a refusal to acknowledge context. Inflation is squeezing everyone. Entertainment budgets are tightening. Families are cutting back. Against that backdrop, millionaire athletes framing themselves as undercompensated risk sounding tone deaf, no matter how justified the underlying math might be. This is where the disconnect becomes dangerous. Fans don't want to feel lectured. They don't want to feel guilt-tripped. And they definitely don't want to feel like their sacrifices to support the league aren't appreciated. The tragedy here is that this didn't have to be the narrative. With different messaging, with empathy toward the audience, this could have been framed as a shared journey, players and fans growing together. Instead, it's starting to feel adversarial. The Players Association isn't failing because their goals are illegitimate. They're failing because they've misread the room. They're speaking as if public sentiment is guaranteed, as if loyalty is automatic. It isn't. In sports, fan trust is fragile. Once it cracks, rebuilding it takes years, and sometimes it never fully returns.